Nucor shipped 7% more steel last year and got 2% less for it. My call is that Nucor's average price per ton comes in below $1,250 for 2026 at 60% odds. Last year it was $1,221. That's under a tariff fully reinstated in 2025, stripped of every exemption, and widened to roughly 600 more fabricated products. Aluminum got the same statute in the same year. Its U.S. premium rose 211%. A tariff raises price only where domestic capacity can't answer it. Steel could answer. So American mills competed the protection away themselves, and it became volume instead. Aluminum couldn't, so it went into the premium and stayed there. And the market priced the result backwards. Steel's earnings fell 52 to 62%, and it trades at 22 to 23 times. Aluminum's earnings rose, and it trades at 8 to 10. Section 232 of the Trade Expansion Act of 1962 covers both metals, which makes this an unusually clean experiment. Aluminum ran at 10% with Canadian metal exempt, went to 25% on March 12th of 2025 with every country exemption and product exclusion canceled at once, then 50% on June 4th. Steel, that same year, fully reinstated, no exceptions, no exclusions, widened to about 600 fabricated products. Nucor's filing says imports came in lower as a result. Same law, same year, same direction. The two prices went opposite ways. Alcoa prices aluminum in three pieces: the London metal price, a regional premium, and a product premium. The American regional one is the Midwest premium, and its 2025 average rose 211%, which Alcoa attributes largely to the Section 232 tariffs. It lands visibly in the mix. Alcoa's aluminum third-party sales went from $7.23 billion to $8.36, while its alumina sales fell from $4.66 billion to $4.45. A tariff working exactly as designed. Imported metal costs more to land, so domestic delivered metal prices up behind the wall. Nucor's average sales price per ton went $1,241 in 2024, $1,221 in 2025. Steel Dynamics reports the same direction, down 1%, $14 a ton, in what it called the face of trade policy uncertainty. Demand wasn't hiding the effect. Nucor shipments to outside customers rose 7%, from 24.8 million tons to 26.6. More tons, fewer imports, complete protection, lower realized price. Nucor alone shipped 26.6 million tons last year. American steel is mostly electric arc furnaces, which restart and expand within quarters. Raise the domestic price and domestic mills answer. And the way they answer is by underselling each other. Century Aluminum, one of the two primary producers in this story, runs exactly two American smelters. Nothing sits idle waiting to arbitrage the premium back down. Protection becomes volume where supply is elastic and price where it isn't. Alcoa's annual report states that total Section 232 tariff costs in 2025 were $571 million. A U.S.-listed aluminum company paid that under a tariff meant to protect U.S. aluminum. Because its smelters sit largely outside the country, and Canadian metal heading south now crosses a 50% wall. The next sentence in the filing changes what it means. At recent Midwest premium pricing, Alcoa writes, tariff costs on U.S. imports from Canada are fully covered by the Midwest premium. Alcoa paid it and passed it on. The $571 million came out of whoever bought the metal. Century Aluminum, whose smelters are inside the United States, says the premium increase has had a material positive impact on its financial position and results of operations. Its gross margin went 4% in 2023, 7.7% in 2024, 10.1% last year, and operating income climbed from $28 million to $158. Two annual reports, one transfer. Neither sentence describes a new ton of metal. If the premium is that much higher, why hasn't somebody built a smelter? In January, Century announced a joint development agreement with Emirates Global Aluminium for what it calls the first new primary aluminum smelter in the United States since MT Holly came online in 1980. 45 years. And the way it's finally being attempted is a joint venture with a state-owned producer from the UAE. A smelter needs hundreds of megawatts of cheap, uninterrupted power for decades. A tariff supplies none of that. Century's Hawesville, Kentucky smelter had been fully curtailed since 2022. In February, it sold the property to a TerraWolf affiliate for $200 million plus a 6.8% interest in a data center project on the site. The tariff was meant to restart American smelting. The idle smelter turned out to be worth more as somewhere to plug in computers. The valuable asset was never the pot line. It was the grid connection, and in 2026 the buyer for that isn't in metals at all. Nucor's pre-tax margin went 18.1%, then 9.4%, then 7.9%. Revenue fell 6% over those 2 years, and net income fell 62%, from $4.5 billion to $1.7. Steel dynamics. Operating margin 16.8 down to 8.1. Net income roughly halved. Cleveland-Cliffs swung from a $659 million operating profit to a $1.58 billion operating loss on revenue that shrank 15%. Aluminum went the other way entirely. Alcoa moved from a $651 million net loss to a $1.16 billion net profit on revenue up 22%. Alcoa's total segment adjusted EBITDA was $1.94 billion in 2025 against $2.07 billion the year before. It fell 6%. The triple net income came from somewhere else, and Alcoa lists the drivers itself. Higher aluminum prices, a gain on selling its Saudi joint venture interest, lower taxes, and mark-to-market on its Maiden shares. 3 of those 4 aren't operations. The tax line is loudest. 2025 carried a $55 million benefit against a $265 million provision the year before on pre-tax income that went from $289 million to $1.06 billion. Aluminum improved far less than the headline says. A market marking it down 34 to 41% isn't being stupid. The tariff is a transfer, not a profit engine, and neither industry's earnings track it. Steel got everything it asked for, and its realized price still fell because its own capacity answered. Aluminum got a 211% premium because nothing could answer, and the company collecting it is a $4.6 billion business. The thesis lives in aluminum rather than steel on boring arithmetic. 2 primary aluminum names at 8 and 10 times trailing earnings against 22 and 23 for the big steel makers. More than double the multiple for the earnings that fell. Note who escaped. Reliance, which distributes metal rather than making it, sits 1% off its high at 25 times. The squeeze landed on the people who own furnaces, not the people who own warehouses. The counterweight is everything in the last scene. Aluminum's improvement is thinner than net income suggests, and a premium created by policy is removable by policy. Through 2027, most likely it's 60%. Steel prices flat to slightly down on holding volumes. Aluminum's premium elevated but no longer climbing, and the earnings gap narrowing from both ends. The call stands, Nucor below $1,250 a ton for 2026 at 60% odds, printed every February. Second order, and the one that matters for aluminum. Alcoa's segment adjusted EBITDA under $1.9 billion for 2026 at 55% odds because the operating line was sliding before the one-offs arrived. 3. Break thresholds. Nucor's realized price, $1,221. Above $1,300 and the capacity response argument is wrong. The Midwest premium, which has to hold most of that 211%. And whether concrete gets poured on the Emirates smelter, the only thing that structurally caps this premium. Catalysts up, a real restart of curtailed U.S. smelting or steel demand strong enough to beat the supply response. Down, any change to Section 232 and a second Hawesville. Upstream, this pulls alumina, bauxite, scrap, and electricity that made Hawesville worth $200 million to a data center. Downstream, every can, car, transmission line, and building frame pays the premium. What changes my mind? Nucor above 1,300 ton, or Alcoa's segment EBITDA, turning up while the premium holds. I'm Big Z. Follow me. See you in the next deep dive.